They're the ones, not Fox, not Breitbart, who actually went and uncovered the fact that, like, there were a ton of FBI informants on the people who attacked the Capitol. That was us, not the right-wing guys.
My, oh my, how the tables have turned. A New York Times reporter is caught admitting that there were indeed FBI informants among those who attacked the Capitol. We're going to look at what was said. We're going to see how it contradicts what the New York Times has been reporting. And stick with the very end of this video when I'll reveal precisely what's behind this cover-up. You are not gonna want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. I am your daily fake news antidote, so come on into your Patriot Professor's Den. We're happy to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we begin, let me ask you, what are you willing to do in order to affect change in this country? Well, at Patriot Switch, over 2 million patriots all across the country are making the switch to make sure that their purchases support patriotic companies. The neat thing here is that it involves nothing outside your ordinary routine or the items you already purchased, but the quality is second to none, and pricing is comparable, if not better in most cases, especially for an even better quality product. You can make the switch today and start voting with your dollars to support companies that promote freedom. Learn more by visiting Patriot Switch in the description below. All right, gang, so let's dive right in here. Project Veritas has struck again. This time, the hidden camera sting involved a fellow by the name of Matthew Rosenberg, who's the national security correspondent for the New York Times. And in the video, we can see Rosenberg privately ranting about a number of things, such as the fact that the media's obsession with January 6th is, in his opinion, absolutely ridiculous. It's totally over the top. He's completely over the establishment narrative that this was the single worst attack on American soil since 9/11, all this stuff. And Rosenberg admitted that the New York Times coverage of the January 6th riots has simply not been accurate. It has not been reliable, and they've consistently published a false narrative to their readers.
The story I got sucked into doing was like, I do investigative stuff. I usually do like longer term things, but I got back to work on Monday, and the managing editor had a great idea that he could have had a month ago, which was like, me and a colleague had done like a very long 7,000 word story last year in February about like kind of the big lie about the Stop the Steal campaign, which was a very organized campaign. It wasn't like an organic thing. He's like, can we do like part 2 of that, like what's going on in the years from January 6th, and kind of like memory holing it, like making it it's no big deal? Like, yeah, we can do that. It's a little quick turnaround. So we've been doing the last few days. That's the story. But so in a meeting, I'm like, one of the issues here is that, like, the Fox News of the world and elsewhere, is that the left's overreaction, the left's reaction to it in some places was so over the top that it gave the opening, the right even, to start introducing the idea of, well, these people are out of control. Like, it's not a big deal as they're making it. Because they were making it too big a deal. They were making this an organized thing that it wasn't. And that gave the opening for the lunatics on the right to be like, oh, well, nothing happened here. It was just a peaceful bunch of tourists, And it's like, but nobody.
So according to this New York Times reporter who was on the grounds of the Capitol building when all hell broke loose on January 6th, according to him, January 6th was actually not that big of a deal. But it's been fabricated into one by the left-wing activists disguised as journalists over at the New York Times. Now, James O'Keefe of Project Veritas points out that even though Rosenberg knew this, that didn't stop him from writing the article he was asked to write, debunking the so-called big lies that January 6th was no big deal and that its significance was largely a fabrication of the left and so on. Even though you heard him say precisely those two things. It was not that big of a deal, and the left most certainly has overblown its significance, giving Fox News and the lunatics on the right the opening they need to say that they were just, a bunch of peaceful tourists or something like that. How ironic that the article he authored is entitled The Next Big Lies. But then in the midst of his complaints, he admitted something that really is nothing less than a bombshell. Check it out.
Not Fox, not Breitbart, who actually went and uncovered the fact that, like, there were a ton of FBI informants on the people who attacked the Capitol. That was us, not the right-wing guys.
Yes, you really did just hear that. That was a New York Times reporter claiming that there were, quote, tons of FBI informants among the people who attacked the Capitol. Now, that observation is rather fascinating, to say the least, because when you scour the New York Times coverage of January 6th, they don't seem to take too kindly to that notion that there were FBI informants on the Capitol grounds. For example, take a look at this headline. January 6th panel seeks to debunk unfounded theory about FBI role in riot. Or this one, no, there's no evidence that the FBI organized the Capitol riot. Stupid. It was all you knuckle-dragging Trump hicks trying to overturn the election, right? Leave the FBI out of this. So, what's going on here? Well, obviously, the obvious question is why the New York Times isn't reporting on this. If they knew that there were, quote, tons of FBI informants among the people who attacked the Capitol, as Rosenberg explicitly stated, why are they not reporting that? Well, we've talked on this channel a number of times about the precise way the media sets the agenda for Washington, D.C. It's rooted in something called agenda setting theory. That's at least what scholars call it. And agenda setting theory is a field of study that explores the influence of the media on setting the political agenda and prioritizing political causes and policies. It's long been recognized that what the mainstream media focuses on or what current events get attention is the major driver of what counts as a viable political agenda, which of course is always radical left. And they have traditionally enacted this agenda setting through the twin processes of framing and priming. Okay? Framing involves fabricating a narrative to interpret facts and current events. And the purpose of fabricating a narrative that interprets and explains the events is in order to what's called prime the audience. And priming involves the ways in which framing encourages and influences us to think, feel, and act in accordance with the media-driven narrative. So framing and priming are the two ways in which the mainstream media exercises its agenda-setting authority. But here's the key, and it's very important to all this. It's widely recognized that only those facts and events that fit into the fabricated frame are going to get any attention. Any facts and events that circumvent or call into question that frame are ignored. They're dismissed. Increasingly, it's nothing more than QAnon kook conspiracy theories. But here now we have a New York Times reporter on hidden camera admitting that the Times knew that, quote, tons of FBI informants were among those storming the Capitol, and yet the Times has omitted telling its readers that. And the reason why, according to agenda setting theory, is that such a fact doesn't fit into the New York Times narrative, their fabricated frame for this event. And we all know what that frame ultimately is. January 6th was supposed to be that singular event that decisively buried Donald Trump and the MAGA movement once and for all. That is the significance of January 6th as far as the media swamp in D.C. is concerned. And nothing that could contradict that agenda is even remotely admitted into the frame. And yet, as a number of pundits are pointing out, Trump and the MAGA movement are in many ways today stronger than ever before. They're taking over the Republican Party, particularly at the grassroots. They've taken over the Republican Party in terms of massive fundraising with Trump's Save America PAC, and they're increasingly taking over the GOP at the state and federal levels as well. So the New York Times could try to hide the truth all they want, but it's all, in the end, irrelevant. Their days of setting the agenda for the nation are indeed coming to an end, and there's absolutely nothing that their silence can do about it. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video on the Biden presidency absolutely imploding as of yesterday in particular. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.